We did it again. We missed the intro.
I think we ain't done yet.
You personally?
I think we ain't done yet.
Nole Nation. We'll get that right one of these days, the timing. Your producer is slacking. But thank you for joining us on the Renegade Rundown on an absolutely pivotal day in Florida State recruiting as far as the calendar goes, with some absolute studs on campus, some really big names you're going to want to hear about or in the process of heading this way. Mike Norvell has got a chance right here to capture some serious momentum on the recruiting trail, get some buy-in from the fan base. We had a bombshell ruling in Tennessee again. That's going to completely change college football for like the third or fourth time now as it regards to JUCO. We're going to talk about how that can affect the current roster, as well as who possibly could be coming back. I think you guys are going to be pleasantly surprised when we break down the offensive line and the defensive line that remains. The rumors out there of number 5 possibly coming back. We'll talk about if there's any real smoke there. But yeah, ton of good stuff. I know you all want to talk about the top guys that were on campus, the visits, who's going to be committing in the next 24 hours, who's going to be pushing those recruitments, who are some other targets that have hit recently that we might get after. We're going to get all into all that, but we'll let y'all kind of trickle in here. First, just want to introduce my beautiful and amazing and lovely co-host, Jen Santee, with a clean bill of health. She's on top of the world right now. She's at Jen Santee 1890. You can find her on X, as always. And the special guest for tonight, my guy, Rob Deloach, Coach Rob, Mentor Rob. I'm not sure your exact rank, but 14 years in the Air Force. Make sure I get that right. He runs the factory. It ain't for everybody, but there's a ton of kids coming out of Savannah, Georgia. He's the kind of unofficial mayor of Savannah, Georgia, and the residual dad for the FSU fan base. A year removed, 2-10, none of that stopped him. He's out there, speaking up for these players and criticizing them when it's necessary. So it's awesome to get you in here, and we appreciate you joining us to get some insight from a man who's seen it all right there firsthand at the program.
Appreciate you having me.
So I wanted to start right here because I know the fan base will enjoy this. Our guy, Kalen Deloach, ends up being an undrafted free agent, goes down to Tampa Bay and really makes some waves. Despite, the kind of prejudice against kind of height and weight stuff, the way the NFL is, like, he's one of these guys that has to go out there and prove it. And he did that. Unfortunately, I believe there was a few injuries, things like that. But some big news hit the timeline, I believe, at the beginning of this week or last week, that he got picked up with the Jacksonville Jaguars practice squad, and another opportunity that I'm sure he'll make the most of. How cool is that for you? Also, it being close to Tallahassee, where you got family over here. What was that process like for, him getting over there to Jacksonville?
It's crazy because I was out on Sunday night when his agent called. And, when he came back from Tampa, he had, we told him to just keep his bags packed by the door because you just never know when you can get the call. So I was out in the store or something, and my wife called and said, Kalen's on the road. I said, on the road where? Oh, he's going to Jacksonville. So he left out Sunday night, and 2 hours he was already there. So actually I had to go to Jacksonville yesterday to take him some of his birth certificate and social security card. So, that was a turn and burn. I was glad to see him. He was smiling. I was smiling. So I took the 2-hour ride, and he got out of practice at 5, and I was waiting in the parking lot and exchanged, the paperwork, and then we hugged and laughed and then got back on the road and, got back home. But I'm excited for him, to get his opportunity. Just talked with him a few minutes ago prior to the call. He said everything was going well. And, I say always stay ready. You just never know. So you're actually auditioning for your next job.
He was sitting on ready and rocking on go. Hey, that's the way to be. And blessed to have somebody to bring those things. That's my mom in our family. I'll leave my family and I'll show up at school butt naked, like, oh, Mom, I need some help. I got here on time, but bring that to me. The guys in the chats are disappointed that he couldn't stick with the Bucs, and I get it. I kind of became a Buck fan when Jameis went there, so it was cool to see him there. But shoot, Jacksonville's the next best thing. He's got our guy Big Game James Coleman out there, going to be covering him like he did in college. Even more now. I mean, he's a legitimate NFL reporter. He straddles the fence on the reporting on FSU stuff. But Pretty cool. Family everywhere.
Yeah, it's pretty nice. You know, J Dub was excited to see him, and Trayvon Walker, Kalen, and Trayvon played on the Nike Elite team together. So he was telling me today when he came in the room, first thing Trayvon saying, D-Lo. So, you know, just relationships, man, and you know, it's just it's important in life that you know they build these relationships because you just never know. At least playing the NFL, you know, how it's going to end up.
Well, before we get into the nitty gritty and what everybody wants to hear about Florida State and where their portal class is and all that, Kalen's a guy, he wore out his eligibility at Florida State. You know, he came in here under Taggart, had plenty of opportunities to transfer, you know, do different things, leave early for the draft year early. He could have done all these things, but he stuck with it. I know for a fact that didn't come without, you know, tampering, people calling, you know, offers, ideas, maybe people in his ear saying you should transfer and go do this after a 5-win season, stuff like that. So for somebody that's been there as a support for somebody who went through it all, just from your point of view, how crazy has all this gotten with NIL and the portal, and how distracting is it for these kids? Like, it's just college football is really in flux, and we'll get into the JUCO thing later, but I imagine it has to be hard to be, you know, kind of locked in and focused and just stay year after year when you see these kids like Barrett Alexander. He's on his fourth school in 4 years. Like,
man, I mean, I just tell you this. I'm glad that I'm not in this cycle now. But for us, it probably would be easy because, you know, once we committed to Florida State. And like I say, you know, you can pull receipts. We knew what we were signing up for when we decided to come to Florida State. And that's where we wanted to be. And like any high school kid coming out of high school, they felt like the 2019 class could turn the program around. And 4 to 5 years later, I mean, most of those kids came out of the 2019 class. So at some point, you got to plant, you know, for us, plant the spear, man, and ride it out. And you know, great things happen for him. Great things happen for the university. And you know, I believe Coach Novell is, you know, they'll get it back going. Him and Arnold, they get it back together. So I'm excited for the upcoming season.
Yeah, man, they call it Noleblooded. They say once you're Seminole for life, Dope Boys, all that stuff. I haven't had the privilege to speak with Kalen near as much as you, but you guys exude that, and that's beautiful to see. One more question I'll ask you before I let Jen ask the question, and then we get into the transfers. Like, what is that for people on the outside? Like, as fans, we hear it. You see it on social media, the whole family thing. One of the recruits we'll get into later really spoke about what the family atmosphere is. Like, you're just you're not just a father, but you are a father of a player. It's not like you played at the school and everything, but like, I imagine when you walk around Tally, it's like you might as well have played for the school and your family. I've been around you at tailgates and stuff. Like, so like I said earlier, after the 2 and 10, like, what is that? What's it like to like be a Seminole for life? Kind of just, I kind of word that crazy, but I think you know what I mean.
Well, you know, you got to know the history of it. You know, once you understand the history, and from the football standpoint, the guys that came before Kalen, you know, families that came before me, the seeds were already planted. So we kind of just picked it up, watered the grass, and you know, just stuck to the process. And our foundation is built on standing on your word. If you commit to doing something, then, you know, we believe in our household that you got to stick through it. And then for Kalen, you know, he stuck through it. He has some, you know, he has some rough times. You know, they're young, and you know, that's where the parents come in. You got to hold them accountable. And the standard is the standard. And for him and the guys that stuck around, I mean, you can come back to Tallahassee, man, 13-0 season. You can walk around with your shirt off and nobody's going to say anything. So I can't do that.
Kind of what I was getting at, like the unintended benefits of, you know, being part of the legacy. Like, you know, when you go for a loan or whatever the case may be, like, you're going to get a smiling face if it's in the vicinity of Tallahassee and somebody that's going to look at you like a neighbor. And it even goes to us to a certain extent. Like, don't get me wrong, Mark. You, Mike Alford, James, all the different P-Dub, Snoop, every time we've got to interact with them, they've been amazing to us. So I imagine you reap the benefits as well. But when you try to explain it to people, it's hard to explain until you just get down there, I guess.
Yeah, you just got to get in and get involved. You know, for me, from day one, even doing his recruitment, you know, James and I were just talking about this earlier. Somebody made a post about my wife cooking something for Coach Taggart, and then I was like, why would you think my wife cooked? I cooked the dinner for every coach that came to our house, because
Oh, I love that.
everybody that came, every coach, even with my daughter being recruited, I fixed dinner for everybody because I always wanted. If I let them in my house, I had to trust them. So, and I know these guys, and they're away from their home, so I was always wanting to feel like my home was their home.
That's me, man. Every girlfriend I've had, they end up running out of the kitchen because we get in a fight. Because I'm like, well, why don't you put salt in the water? You're only supposed to do that spaghetti 9 minutes. Yeah, they run me out. I'm like, I'll cook. But Jen, don't let me talk all night. I know you got some questions and things before we get into the recruitment talk everybody's waiting on.
I guess my one question would be, do you ever have to buy like food or drink whenever you go to Tallahassee? Because I'd assume you don't.
Well, I always offer. How about that?
I love that. I love that.
I've never had to purchase anything, but I always ask, what do you need? Because I want to feel like I'm a part of the process as well. I don't want any special privileges. I just want to come in and enjoy the festivities like anybody else. But for the most part, last year I went to the Clemson game. I didn't have to bring anything. I ended up being on the
Good
field.
for you.
But now I'm a team player, so a lot of times when you go to tailgates, you don't ask, things are needed. You just bring it in and leave it on the table, and you don't take your bottle when you leave. You leave it for the next tailgate.
That's right. And if you haven't made it into any of those tailgates that James and CJ and Chris put on, they're a lot of fun. Everybody does them, but
I normally, have a routine. If James and CJ are tailgating, I go visit, and then the parents of the football team, we had a tailgate area set up on the Legacy Walk. So prior to the game, we will all be over there tailgating, and then head into the stadium.
All fun stuff, man. There's nothing like getting to see the Legacy Walk and hanging out with everybody, former players, All-Americans, Heisman, just walking up like another person. And you hit the nail on the head. Like James and them and CJ and Chris, they charge for these tailgates, but it's like there's no fence around it. There's nobody like, whoa. It's all on an honesty system, and everybody's wanting to help everybody out. We could drink free the whole time, but you put that tip in the tip jar for the girls making the drinks, and it's a beautiful family. And speaking of family, we'll get into
wait, hang on about the tailgates. Anybody I would recommend, do not have George make your beverage, like ever.
Come on now.
Just saying. I just needed to put that out there.
Oh,
that was one of those things like where when your parents ask you to do something and you don't want to do it, so you really do a crap job at it.
We don't have to do it again.
That's what I'm going with on that.
That's how my ex-husband was, and guess what? Ex-husband. Okay.
I'm single. Don't let Miss Adrien fill up your drink either, because she will. Or I might have it. Her and Michelle, one of them too. They had me on some. What is it? Screwdrivers. I had
but you're talking to me, so I would think you would want them to make my drink. Correct.
Well, I'm a lightweight.
He put all like what was it? Juicy juice something, and like this much. Like I was like, what? It tasted like nothing but sugar. I was like, okay, George. And it's hotter than Hades outside. Hotter than Hades. And he wanted to fill me up with that juice with hardly any ice. I was like, what is
you got to pace yourself at the tailgates.
Lord.
Yeah, the LSU last year in Orlando, it was crazy. So
yes, it was.
You have to pace yourself if you want to see the game.
Were you there the night before the game?
Well, no. Yeah, I come down on Friday.
That's when it got real down there, boy. Woo.
Yeah. Well, I know one guy they found in the stall. He missed the whole game.
Oh no.
Yeah.
We didn't even make it into the game. Money. We watched it in the parking lot, but we stayed awake for it. Go ahead, Jen. Sorry.
I was just gonna say, imagine paying all that money and then just spending it in a disgusting public restroom. I can't.
Yeah, it was one of the porta potties. He never even made it.
Oh no! Oh God!
Yeah, he fell asleep in the porta potty. It's like, man, it's only 5 o'clock. The game's at 7. He won't make it.
No, that's doing
the big black one with the AC and stuff, and not the little blue one.
That was the blue ones. Trust me, it was the blue ones.
Oh, good.
Yeah. So.
I hope
Oh,
he's still
man.
taking showers. I do. I hope he's still taking showers.
Oh
I have
man.
nightmares of them videos where people push them things over. They think it's a
Oh,
joke. Oh my gosh, you can murder somebody over that.
Yeah, I'm glad I don't have friends like that.
Yes. Who needs friends like that, or who needs enemies when you have friends like that? But
Exactly.
we'll get into the portal, guys, and to touch back
Yeah.
on the family element of it. The top guy, maybe the most likely to commit, or second most likely, and the guy that's on top of everybody's mind is Duce Robinson out of USC, recruited at Florida State. Didn't get him a couple years ago. I believe the 23 class, if I'm not mistaken. Ends up going out west. He's actually a legacy, as I said, Dominic Robinson's son, but he grew up in Arizona. So kind of in the middle of Florida State and California, goes out to USC. He stopped at Arizona State before he came to Florida State. So that was a big word with him being from Arizona. So we were kind of, biting our tongues like it'd be real nice, but we're not going to get our hopes up. But sure enough, flies in either last night or sometime this morning, and they get him on campus for a visit. All of a sudden, crystal balls start rolling in. I think Brennan Sinone put one in yesterday or the day before. And then today, we get an article at about 8:15 from the Tallahassee Democrat. Duce Robinson committed Thursday night, announced, he's committed to Florida State. And, of course, the timeline, as they do on top of it, gets onto them until they delete it. But, anytime that happens, I wonder if they had it wrote up and somebody, hey, he's locked in, and they just hit send, if it was just an accident. We'll never know. As somebody who publishes articles from time to time, that's like my biggest nightmare. But these things have like a 3-step verification. You can't just hit send. Like when you hit post, then you have to check a box and are you sure you want to send it? So yeah, tough stuff. He was out there throwing with Thomas Castellanos. He came with him on the visit. So really, really, really trending up. 6'6", 220 pounds. Third-year junior. He had almost 400 yards, 5 touchdowns this year. This would be like one of the guys you wouldn't think a 2-10 team could possibly pick. So Jen, start off with your thoughts and go to Rob on what he thinks. Like, how big could this be? And do you think we're going to get a Marius Mims here 2.0, or do you think we end up getting that commitment here in the next 24 hours?
I would say I look for it in a couple days, if not tonight, to be honest. I think Louisville is off the table at this point for him. I know that On3 had said Louisville was a threat. Something's going on with Louisville here. We've talked about that in the chat earlier, but I don't know what it is. But yeah, I don't even think he's making that visit anymore. So I do. Yeah, I do think we get him.
Any thoughts, Rob? I know you said you talked to James earlier. I was watching his show, and that's got a bit of a nugget. I won't say any names or anything. He didn't say any names, but somebody with some knowledge was kind of like, "Yeah, we're not imagining he's going to make it here because he was supposed to be at Louisville for a visit tomorrow." And that's kind of where my 24 hours thing came in here. It'd be nice if that happened. I'm not trying to get too positive on you guys, but
where did this quarterback go?
Which quarter?
His quarterback transferred to Louisville.
Did he? If so, that went over my head for sure. And that probably would be why he would have got his visit over there.
Yeah.
That would make perfect.
Something is going on at Louisville. Supposedly, current players are calling people that are visiting, telling them don't do it. I don't know if that's true. That's just some Louisville fans are talking about it that way. So we'll see.
Yeah. We don't worry about those Nats.
Yep.
That's right. Yeah, Miller Moss, the guy that threw that touchdown in the opening clip, I didn't even realize he transferred to Louisville. But yeah, that makes perfect sense. But to Jen's point and kind of what we heard on James' show, we'll see. But hopefully that visit doesn't happen, obviously.
Yeah, I think it'd be a good fit for us. We need that size and that athleticism, at the tight end position. I'm looking forward to that. Hopefully we can keep Landon Thomas as well and help develop him going into next season. And then, you bring some experienced guys that can catch the ball going down the field.
Yeah, for sure. We missed Johnny last year or this past year, obviously, in the blocking with wide receivers and stuff. we had some taller guys, but no real big guys like that. And then Marcus and Douglas transfers out. So you mentioned it. You got Landon Thomas, Amari Williams, great studs, going to be freak athletes in the future, but they don't have that inline frame quite yet. So whether Duce lines up as a tight end or out wide as a bigger receiver like Kelvin Benjamin and Sammy Coates and these other guys throughout the years, yeah, I totally agree. He'd be a huge addition. And just for momentum and narrative and all that stuff, I don't think there's any kind of bigger guy you could get. Obviously, the biggest issue with this team this year was offensive line. I mean, hands down, that was it. There's somebody that's really, really exciting that's on campus right now. I'll save him for the next, but the first guy I'll talk about is Adrien Medley. He got a crystal ball yesterday or the day before. Visited Thursday, back today, 6'5", 305 pounds. He's from Pensacola High School right here in my neck of the woods. He's a 7th-year senior, COVID senior, I guess is what you would call it. Super senior, whatever you want to call it. Should be announcing tomorrow. And he didn't visit anywhere. He visited here, 1 visit, 2 days, and done. Did an interview and said, I'm not decided yet, but then went on to call it home and name all the perfect reasons. So outside of somebody offering him a boatload of cash, that's another one we could look forward to possibly next 24 hours or the weekend. He had a 74 pass block grade according to PFF, which is miles higher than anything we've had on Florida State squad this year. I think Jalen Early maybe had a game or two where he got up in that range. But, I know you probably haven't studied a ton of UCF O-line, but if they could get – we've been saying 3 to 5 guys. You know what I mean? How big would it be if they could get this guy and then the next guy we talk about at tackle would be much more important. But to get a left guard in there and plug and play, and now you got your right tackle, you got your left guard, like you can start see this thing start to turn around pretty quick.
Yeah, and we got the guy that transferred in from Florida last year. Hopefully he'll be ready to go. Leonard will be healthy this year. Can give us a full season early. He had to play early, unfortunately. And we got to have some depth, as you know, because at that position we can't afford for anybody to go down. But I like who they're bringing on campus, and hopefully we can seal the deal. Unfortunately, I think a couple of guys got away to the SEC because the bags are just bigger.
Yeah, that's a great time to bring that up. The center from UCF and the center from Arkansas. Addison Nichols from Arkansas, Caden Kitler from UCF. Caden Kitler was a guy that I thought was a slam dunk. I thought they were going to sign him no matter what. And they ended up having Addison Nichols come in at the same time. Addison Nichols goes off somewhere else, and then Caden Kitler goes and commits to Arkansas, where he came from. Almost like on the visit, he didn't get told the number he wanted, and old dude was like, damn, they won't give you that? Arkansas will give you that, where I just came from, type of
Christmas
thing.
shopping. These guys Christmas shopping, man.
Yeah.
So don't get too excited. So
Yeah.
It's holiday shopping, and we don't want to shop too early like we did last year. I'm just gonna be steadfast, and once I see the official roster roll out in May or June, then when we kick off against Alabama, then hey, I go with it from there.
Yeah, people really got fired up about that. Like, guys, and I'll get you guys' comment, Jen, and then back to Rob. Like, as far as what the reasoning were, at first I was kind of disappointed. I thought Kitler was a big miss. But to Rob's point, I really think now looking at it and kind of who they're going after and like the level of players, like the Rice offensive tackle I'll talk about later that just hit the portal, like I think they honestly, Herb Hand knew their value, and just the fact of him coaching the one guy and then getting the other guy in, I think honestly that they just wanted too much, that they didn't value them to come in and call, hey, you're a starter over what they had over the Jalen Earlys, over some of the other guys they have. I thought that was kind of fantasy land. I thought that was kind of a coat mechanism when people were first saying it. And I haven't been critical. I thought they've been almost perfect from the high school class, getting coaches in here, who they're targeting in the portal. I thought that was a big miss. But we'll start with you, Jen. Am I carrying water with them, or do you think maybe they really evaluated them and yeah, they weren't worth the $600,000 or whatever they wanted?
Well, I don't know that it's not that's what they're worth. I think we don't know exactly what was offered and then what another school offers, because in order to get those bodies in, it's a lot more. And when you look at the SEC, and again, the SEC, they have Netflix deals, they've got this deal, they've got that deal. The junkie ACC isn't going to do that. We don't have that. So these kids anymore, they don't look at Arkansas like the piece of crap program that they are, right? They don't care. They're getting what they can get for their last year that they're eligible, and good for them. If they can get the money, hey, I'm a capitalist too. Go get your money. You already left the program you're at, whatever. Like, that is the way it is. And I'm not going to begrudge anybody for making more money. However, if they aren't, say, the top dog player or whichever one you want to do, I don't see an ACC team saying, let's give you 800,000. My guess would be if 600 was the number, Arkansas says, hey, let's do 800. We've got Netflix. If you've seen that, Netflix is now going to be, paying millions to the SEC too. It's a different world right now. None of these portal kids care. Look at Texas Tech. They don't care they're going to Texas Tech. Texas Tech has no viability to really, if we're going to be for real here, they're not winning a national championship next year. They don't care about that. They're getting their bag for their last year. Good for them. I'm not going to hate on them for that. I personally would probably leave my job too if my job wanted to. If another job said, "Hey, I'm going to give you 1,000% more for a year," I'd say, "Sorry, I wouldn't even put in my 2 weeks. Bye bye." Let's be honest. Every last one of us would do that. So it's not about program fading, and I wish fans would understand that. This isn't the same thing. Portal isn't the same thing. These are these kids' last opportunities. They get in the portal. They're all of a sudden these rankings. All these teams are saying, hey, they can come meld my team, whether they start, whether whatever happens. But it's a last chance opportunity for them to show what they've got or make money that they couldn't make otherwise. That's the bottom line. And it's not really about whiffing or coaches not doing their jobs. It's about what other programs can do. And ACC teams are not going to sit here and say, for a center or an offensive lineman that may not start, we just don't know. So they're not going to sit there and come off like 1.2 million or 800,000 or whichever the numbers are. It's just not going to happen. And other teams have that. That's it. That's what I would say.
You make a great point there, especially for the guys in their last year. They're going to try to capitalize, if they can, and you can't blame them because some of them may not have aspirations to play in the NFL or the USFL or the Canadian League, and they may want to take this $500,000 or $600,000, $700,000 and invest it in something outside of football. It may jumpstart their career to whatever they want to do. So it's really not all about football. It's about planting seeds for that next step. If you're not planning on playing in the NFL, if people don't want to invest that kind of money for 12 games or 14 games, hell, sign me up.
I would look at, if you look at state taxes, schools in Florida, Texas Tech doesn't even have a state tax, just like Florida, right? So you're going to sit there and you're going to take all that money from a school like Texas Tech. You've got Florida State fans freaking out saying, how are these kids going to Texas Tech? Texas Tech is writing a blank check this year. Now, whether they are viable to actually win anything, I don't believe it. But I'd have to, see it to believe it, to be fair. But they, that is what they're doing this year. They're going all in. I think their coach feels like it could be a make or break year for him. So he's doing what he can do. And he got the money together, and good for them. That's what they're going to do. They're paying these kids. Whether it works out or not is a totally different thing. It doesn't mean the coaches now are sitting here whiffing because they're not willing to come up all this money for these players. And fans just gotta understand that and maybe just kind of simmer just a bit.
Well,
that's what I would say. Yeah.
Part of it is at this rate, this system is going to bust. And then at some point we'll be back to reality. And the ones that really suffer now are the high school kids because nobody's taking time to develop high school kids. So if you take a high school kid, he is a rental. And then you're going to pay him for somebody else to develop, and we'll come back and scoop him up in 2 years. The Texas Tech
100%.
kid that just left only stayed 6 months, and he was a 5-star plus kid. He took the bag for 6 months, and then now in January he's going to be someplace else. That's the name of the game now. 6 months, and we out as a high school kid. If you can get the money coming in and put up some numbers, get on the field, you can transfer someplace else and get more money.
There's always going to be somebody. You come in as a freshman, whatever, you're there. It's like when you work a job. You know what I mean? You come in as a helper, you're going to be seen as a helper until you've been a journeyman for 5 years. So, you run into these situations where Pat Payton has to hold the collective hostage, threaten to do all this. Or to your point, you could just transfer every single year, go to the open market. There's going to be one out of these 130 teams that's desperate and willing to pay you. You get two different kind of situations. You got Texas Tech which is a perfect storm of going to 8-4, being a game out of the Big 12 championship, and the buku money. They're kind of like Ole Miss last year, where they're trying to make a run and they're just going to pay for everything at every position. And then you've got Arkansas, who they just had to have a center, and they've got money. They're going to go after some guys, and they're willing to outbid you. And I think y'all both made very good points, and I'm right there with you. It's just that degree of you got to judge. Oh, well, if I pay this center this and he gets beat out by the guard who makes $250,000 million less than him, what's this going to do the dynamic? We just brought this other guy in that's the same kind of interior offensive lineman for this money. We can't give him that. So, I give him a pass on that. And I think, the thing with the fan base is well, damn, why didn't you just pay him? It couldn't have been that much. Well, I'm giving them grace, and I think they probably made a decision that was best for the program. And we'll see what happens with these other guys.
So part of that is, I can only speak from my experience, is that how do you, when kids are knowing what other kids are making, and we call ourselves teammates. We're competing, and you're not really making plays, and I'm making plays, but I'm getting paid less. And I can speak for my son. He wasn't the highest paid in NIL, and we didn't negotiate. Whatever they offered him, he had never had it before, so we was okay with it. And I still pay his car note to this day. So, so it's no big deal. But,
Deloach taking strays now. Come on.
No, man. Listen, I tell them I don't need anything, because when they get 56, I don't want them asking, but Dad, I gave you some 30 years ago. I don't want to hear it. So keep your money and save it. But it's going to, like I said, it's going to bust eventually, because when you paying one or two guys X amount of dollars, and those guys that are on the team playing next to you in the trenches are not getting half of what you're getting, and you're dealing with young people, there's going to be some envious and jealousy in there, and it creates, well, I need to try to get mine, and then you lose the team. And that's kind of what we saw last year with our team, is that guys wasn't playing for each other. They was playing to make money, and unfortunately, it didn't work out in our favor.
We grew up on, you don't tell people what you make. That's private.
That's exactly where I was about to go. Yeah.
Social media and all the stuff being reported. Go ahead, do a rant on it, Jim, before we move to the next player.
No, I was only about to say, and especially with the young kid, they talk.
Yes.
And I've never seen anything like, as I don't know what it is, but we didn't talk about how much we made. We didn't talk to our friends and say, hey, well, I'm making this, what you making, but they are talking, and they talk, and it makes for a, uncomfortable locker room, like you say, if somebody is making plays and the other people aren't, and yet they're out there posting pictures with money and doing this and all the things, it makes for some hurt feelings. And I don't know if maybe they should start with these deals with the money and maybe make them sign an NDA. I don't know, but I'm not really sure how else to do it, but they need to stop talking. Stop talking. Stop putting your business out there. Stop letting people know. Just go about it. Be a team. I don't know how else to do it, but my idea would be just maybe some sort of NDA deal. Don't talk about it.
Jen, I'm in management, and I have guys, and for me, the guys that work for me on my team, I don't even know what they make.
Yeah.
But for some reason, they'll tell each other, well, I got this and I got that. It's like, it's like, I mean, I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, I do payroll taxes and I've got people saying, hey, I had this much taken out and my friend only has this much taken out. We looked at our W-2s. I said, stop sharing your W-2s.
There you go.
You're not supposed to be doing that. Like that is, you're breaching all sorts of confidence. Like, what are you doing? That person can take your information. Like, stop. Don't share your personal information. I'm only saying, like, it's wild what people do. And I do think the kids talking and sharing their information and doing all that has made for uncomfortable situations and will continue to until something, I don't know what has to be done, but they got to think of something here.
Yeah, it causes problems everywhere. No matter where you work, what you came along with. And I don't
Look
know
at Alabama begging for money. Look at Bama.
I don't know if you could make the NDA work. The issue with that is that they've allowed these agents. Even if the kids don't say it, the agent's going to be saying, oh, well, you gave this kid that because I represented him. And it's a mess. Hopefully the collective bargaining in when they come with the cap and everything, maybe that'll help it. But the way they're talking, it's going to be NIL on top of it. I don't know when it's going to crash, Rob.
I don't understand why would a kid need an agent in college?
The Florida kid, the kid Dallas Wilson, who everybody thought was going to go to Florida, goes to Oregon, right? There's no NLI anymore, no national letter of intent, just financial grant and aid. A week later, he asks for his way out. And when you read the paperwork, well, his agent is Vernell Brown III's dad, Vernell Brown Jr. So he's the one who negotiated the deal with Oregon to get him up there. And then now he wants out and he's coming back to Florida. So now he knows how Oregon negotiates and has this intel to bring back to Florida. He's a Gator. His son's a Gator. That thing is fishy with Dallas Wilson. I don't know if it was him playing up money, but that's his dad. Is he going to play up for? I don't know. But, yeah, that's a sticky situation and pretty emblematic of where we are today, no doubt.
I don't even want to bring up dads trying to be involved in what their kids do.
Right.
I love sitting in the stands, watching not only my son, everybody that's on the team play. It's amazing how some of these dads get too involved in what they think is going to be success for their son or their daughter. That's just not me.
Don't get Jim wound up on that.
Look, all I was going to say here, I'm not going to say anything about that. All I would say is I think screwing over Phil Knight like that and you want to go to the NFL may not be your best choice, a career choice. That's what I would say. That's what I would say there. And imagine outspending Phil Knight. Imagine outspending Phil Knight there because and I know it's Dan and Phil Knight doesn't really run Oregon, but that was a bad look for Oregon. And I think that was also a very bad move for that kid. And if you want to go to the NFL, doing something like that, especially with your agent being however that worked, it seems a little fishy. This is it's just not a good look, and something's going to be done. I think now that, we've got to have it happen Alabama once, and then it'll get changed. That's what I would say.
Or Georgia.
Well, yeah. Alabama or Georgia's got to have that happen to them, and then they're going to make some rules.
Let it hit ESPN or ABC in the pocketbook. Then we'll get some changes for sure. And speaking of money, we've been talking about money and why these centers, 2 or 3 centers haven't got paid. Marcellus Marshall, another UCF kid that they had on campus, let him leave, end up committing elsewhere. We got a kid on campus today in Micah Pettus from Ole Miss. He's a redshirt senior, a 5th-year player, recruited him out of high school, 6 foot 7 inches, 350 pounds. In 2022, he was a freshman All-American, started 9 games last year before he got hurt, started 11 out of 12 games this year with a 72.8 offensive PFF grade, a 74 run grade, and a 66.4 pass grade, which again is miles, like across the board, better than anything we had this year. And he's 2 inches, 3 inches taller than any tackle we've had in what feels like a decade. Now, we just had that whole conversation of value, and you can't mess up the locker room. If you are going to pay a guy big money, it had better be a Keon Coleman coming. Jared Verse, if he would have transferred out of FSU, would have demanded crazy money. This kid, I don't know what the number is, but if there's somebody that you're going to shell out 7 figures for, it's the 6'7", 350-pound offensive tackle. Mike Norvell like pulled him out of the car, was like attached to him at the hip. Looks like he's a big part of this. You're fighting Texas Tech and everybody for this kid. I mean, they were talking about him being a first-round draft pick, possibly preseason this year, and even like a draft entry, a month ago. He decides to come back. Jen said he's got 1 year. To keep him here at 2-10, that would be a huge get. But I'm curious on your thoughts if it's possible. Like, how y'all feeling on this Pettus kid? Because, man, I'm seeing, like, rainbows and dollar signs and imagining what the offense can be with that wall out there.
Ladies first.
So I think if Texas Tech is also involved, I would say they're going to dole out more money than Florida State will. I'm just going to be honest here. Now, if there is a relationship established, which is good, right? That is a good thing. So with a kid from Ole Miss, I think it would be very hard for him to go to a school like Ole Miss to a Texas Tech. That is a different facility. It's a different look. It's a different fan base. And I think he would be more at home at Florida State, if I'm going to be honest, because of those differences. I don't know that he is all about money. I do think he wants to play, and I think he wants to play, for some relevancy, which is probably why he left Ole Miss. Sorry, I had to say that. But I don't think that you then go. I think Florida State is in it. I just wouldn't overlook the amount of money Texas Tech would throw at a kid like that. So don't be surprised and don't panic if it doesn't turn out. That's what I would say.
I'm kind of leaning towards you. I don't think the kid is about money. He's going to the league.
Yep.
So it's not about the money. He's going to be a first, second round pick, offensive lineman. They're premium at the next level. And, he may want, a change of pace. He's played at Ole Miss, and he wants to be a part of something that he can help change and turn around a program and leave a legacy. It's all about how you leave your legacy is how people are going to remember you. So if he comes in 1 year and, plants a spear, hey, we're gonna treat him like he's been there 5 years. It's just how it works. But hopefully, Coach Norvell has been very hands-on with every recruit that's been on campus. I haven't seen any other coaches in any of the pictures other than Coach Norvell, which is good. So, he's taking command of every recruit that's coming on campus. So, which is is good for him and good for Florida State. So I'm hoping that he sticks with FSU and help mentor some of the young guys and go to the league, and then we can say we got 13 picks next year in the draft.
Yes, sir.
Hey, quick, George, I was right. The Western Kentucky kid committed just now to Florida State. Defensive end. So yes.
Oh, we needed
Maybe
that.
I do have a source. I guess I was right on that.
Boy, how he trolled the crap out of us with his little interview. He said he's taking his recruitment to the end of January, and he's got all these other plans he's wanting to do and all that. So here first, Deante McCray, the Western Kentucky defensive end, 6'4", 283 pounds. Exactly what the doctor ordered. Exactly what we needed on this defense. Comes in. 22 tackles, 37 assisted, 59 combined, three tackles for loss, or excuse me, I had that all messed up. 22 tackles, 2.5 sacks, and 37 assisted this year. 3 tackles for loss combined. He has 8 tackles for loss and 3.5 sacks on the career. Redshirt junior, 4th-year kid. And yeah, I was just getting ready to tell you the guys that I wasn't sure what to do with because of the interview he gave versus what Jim was telling us. So, bam, that's big news. Wow.
So the even better news is the same source said Duce Robinson was on board, Medley was on board. So let's see if those become accurate.
Out of the 3, Adrien Medley is the one that people were the most confident on.
Yeah.
The kid from out here in Pensacola. If you can you already got Deante McCray in the boat. You get Duce. I mean, you're talking about going from 5 to 8 recruits in the portal class, and it just giant positions of need. I mean, I'm fired up right now. How you feel, man? Can't plan any better than this, Rob. We get you on, we get guys committing, news dropping. I put breaking news in the thumbnail, and by God, we got it.
Hey, man. Hey, I'm not breaking any news. I'm just glad to be on the show to be a part of the breaking news.
Yes, sir.
So, no, I mean, that's a good get for us. That solidifies the DNs. The Williams kid, I reached out to him, and so we're definitely going to, stay in contact. He said he's looking forward to meeting me, and he's looking forward to Kalen coming down and work out with him. So I just told him, just come in, man, be a leader. The team needs leadership. Don't be afraid to step out there and be a leader. He said, I got you. So he's my guy.
Man, I love it. Well, you broke a little bit of news right there. The mentorship goes on. So that's super cool to hear. And to hear him talk about his relationship with Pot Roast and everything like that. It seems like a super, super cool kid.
I wish we had stopped saying pot roast. It makes me hungry.
Hey, we're going to keep calling him pot roast, baby, to keep him hungry as well.
Keep bringing that meat home, baby. We're going to keep calling
the meat home.
Because, we look at this thing, and it's a 3-man front. Okay, we got Daryl Jackson Jr. to come back. We got James Williams. Now we got Deante McCray. I mean, to bring in 3 guys to potentially start, maybe the McCray guy doesn't start, maybe somebody else starts over him. But, I mean, you can't ask for much more better than that. I'm tickled pink. I was convinced he got me. I mean, you guys, if you haven't watched the interview he did after he went on and on. He was, just really cold and just, I'm definitely pushing it not only to January, but after that for the month of January. And then the schools he named off were like, that doesn't make any sense. Why would you be? But, he got me. But, yeah.
He got you, man. He was already committed.
Yeah. He got me.
And I sent George a text. I was like, hey, I think this guy's already done. And he was like, no, he's pushing it. I was like, we'll see. We'll see.
It wasn't exactly like that. I just told you what he said. But, yeah, Jim was right. All 3 of them. I thought 2 out of the 3. But it looks like we might get all 3 of them. The offensive tackle from Wake Forest, Keegan Trost. We'll see what happens there. He's supposed to be visiting over the weekend, 6'4", 305 pounds. Started all 12 games this year. I imagine if we land Pettus, you probably don't go after Trost. So I guess we'll see how these 2 play out. But, man, now at this point, if you get all those 3 and you get Micah Pettus, I agree with everything what you guys said. I don't think he's all about the money. And I don't think Florida State's going to ever go get in some crazy bidding war. But I think they would value him enough to where he'd probably get more money than just about anybody on the roster out there, at that offensive tackle position. What we're looking at now, I mean, that would be like whatever. What is it? The thing on Avengers Endgame. He'd be like the final Infinity Stone. Like, oh my goodness. I'm at a loss for words here, guys. I'm fired up.
Well, part of
I think. Oh, sorry. Go ahead. Oh, I was just gonna say, I think that kid played the beat like what's his name, KJ Bolden. Well, he said his grandma was helping him move in. That was the biggest play I've ever seen since then. There you go.
Peter Steele said he saw it. He thought they were playing the beat. Yeah, I had that feeling too. But it's like when all you get is rumors, and then you get one little clip from somebody. It's like you want to believe the kid, but if you're gonna lie to me like that. Lie to me like that all you want, baby. And as much as things get broken, we just talked about what happened to Duce. You can't blame the kids. So fired up, guys. Fired up. What else? Where do we go from here? Who else is on the docket? The kid James Madison that I mentioned earlier, or not James Madison, Eric O'Neal from James Madison. He's an edge, 6'3", 250 pounds, 18.5 tackles for loss and 13 sacks. Just this year. Kid from New York. We'll see how Deante McCray, committing affects this, but that would be another big one. Let's talk about Joshua Farmer for a minute before we move on, and then we can get us some other stuff. This is something that I have not talked to anybody from anywhere that's like a legitimate source. I don't know if this is going on a bunch of blogs or in somebody's Discord, but I did see 10 different people post about it, messaging me, asking me about it. His draft grade from the 3 or 4 different sites I looked at were 3rd day draft grades, which if you're going to come back for another year, that could possibly be a reason. I don't feel like there was any bad blood there with Josh Palmer. I think, he probably just is weighing his options on the NFL. Knowing how big his family is, how everybody's locked in, they're Noleblooded, just, like you and Kalen, like, we'll start with you. Do you think there's any real smoke there? Have you heard anything? Do you think there's a chance he comes back? And how big would that be to have another guy in there at tackle with all the young guys you have coming up in that range?
I hadn't heard anything. I was excited about him declaring. And, I reached out to him and his brother, his family, congratulate him on, making that decision. But if he was to come back, I wouldn't be surprised because nobody wants to go out a loser. And, if it was me, I would bet that, he may be rethinking it. Darryl came back. And if Coach Nole will allow him to come back, with the resources that they're bringing in, he may have opportunity to build on what he started building on towards the end of the season. So I wouldn't be surprised, but either way, I'm happy with his decision. The one thing, he's graduated from college, which is, important to me as a dad, that, he graduated from college and if he did come back, he'd take the minimum classes, play, and then this time next year, he'd be getting ready for the draft. So either way, I would be excited for him.
Yeah, I'd be ready to tell all the lies if he came back. I'd welcome him from open arms. Hey, if whatever his draft grade is, if there's an equitable amount that you can make in NIL for that year, and to your point, come out a winner, improve your draft. I don't think there's any possible way he came back and didn't improve his draft stuff. I think it's just a conundrum for these NFL guys to kind of study this tape, which that's obviously what they do for a living. But when the defense is just out there for so many snaps and so much time, it does a disservice to those guys. So if we could see that run back of him and D-Jack and like what we thought it was going to be this year, that would be great. But either way, I agree. I'd love to see him on the NFL on Sundays as well.
Well, part of it is he technically could come back, for another be a fifth-year guy, which probably would help him, And I think at the next level, these GMs and teams want to see leadership. They've seen the film, how can you lead? And if they study these rooms and talk to these pre-draft coaches and interviews, they want to know how you can help the team. They have their superstars. And if you got leadership and you figure you can play a role, then you may get a job. But if you want to be the man, then it's probably not going to be in the NFL.
You got to find the role and play it.
You got to find your role. They got families to feed in the NFL.
Yes, sir. Rhino says if he's graded to get a draft round in the top 3 rounds, he should go. I agree 100%. Let me clarify there. People talk about it different. When somebody says a day 3 draft grade, that means 5th to 7th round. So that's what I meant. Day 1 would be first round. Day 2 is 2nd through 4th, I think, something like that. So yeah, if there's anybody, a GM out there that wants him in the top 3 rounds, yeah, I would not advise him to come back whatsoever. So totally agree with you there for sure. But let's see. I'll mention the name Rice, offensive tackle Ethan Onianawa, something like that. 6'4", 345-pound offensive tackle, one sack on like 300 dropbacks. He's another guy kind of like Micah Pettus, a little bit less imposing. But if you don't land Micah Pettus, we'll see if they offer this guy and get in on him. I think we've hit most of the portal stuff. We'll get back to it, talk about maybe some exits. We already touched on the roster earlier a little bit. From what I've found, I think we're about 80 guys left on scholarship. Now, they only do 105 now, but used to be 85 scholarships, 20 walk-ons. Now, no walk-ons. Basically just 105 scholarships. If I'm not mistaken, we're still hit with the 5 scholarship reduction. So that puts us with about 20 spots. Highly doubt FSU grabs 20 guys out of the portal. But when you look at, and let me write this name down right here, Deante McCray, and we'll start with defensive line. I think people have an idea of like how far this team is away, and we need to go grab 1 million guys out of the portal. And if you heard us talk, maybe it's my fault. Maybe I'm down for that. Because sometimes I'll say, it's not over. Like FSU can bounce back. ASU did it. They grabbed 30 guys out of the portal. SMU has 60 portal guys on their team. I was just saying that as examples of, what can get turned around. We're not going to grab 30 guys. But when you look at who we've got already, Deante McCray, Daryl Jackson comes back, James Williams, Daniel Lyons, KJ Sampson, Aaron Hester, Tylen Cleveland, the JUCO guy, Jaden Jones, a JUCO guy, Denos White, Jamori Flagg, D.D. Holmes, all redshirt freshmen. You bring in Kevin Wynn and Tylon Lee, two guys who is close to instant impact freshmen as you'll get. The Jesse Harold, Daryl Desir, Mandrell Desir. Like, I think we're in a pretty dang good place. Like, I can't think of outside of 2023 when we've had a deeper kind of front. Like, maybe I'm talking out of my butt. People really made fun of me when I thought we could have like a top 5 ACC front just with what we had if we got a couple more DNs. But yeah, I think we're pretty darn deep there.
Yeah, you have some flexibility considering the defense that they run with a 3-3-5. So you have like I say, you got some studs that can rotate in for a couple of series and give those guys a break. And hopefully the offense is much better than last year, and it may help the defense out. But I've seen it go both ways. I've seen great offenses that put the great defense in bad position because they score so fast, and then they got to get right back on the field.
We remember that, don't we?
Yes.
We remember that. I know you remember that, boy. Man.
Yeah, we put up 40 points a game, but the defense is on the field just as one series and we throw a bomb and we score, and then the defense is right back on the field. It's like, man, guys got to keep the helmet on.
Yeah, either 3 and out and they're right back on the field, or they score and they're right back on the field.
Yeah. So, and if you don't have depth on defense for that, then it's not a good thing. So it'll wear a good defense down, and then everybody's like, oh, they should have did this. No, trust me, you playing in Florida, it's 100 degrees out on that field.
People was praying for Jimbo in those 57 snap games again when all that stuff was going on. We used to do that. We take advantage of like Ole Misses in the world that used to do that. So for that 1 year to have to deal with that, it was a different experience. That's for sure. But yeah, the offensive side, we mentioned some of the names. You mentioned some of the names earlier. The more I look at it, the more I'm tricking myself. But DJ Ferguson was forced to start. We won't talk about the guys that it didn't work out that have left for all different reasons, injury, development, whatever the case may be. When I look at this list, I kind of see the most promising of what was on the roster kind of left. Jacob Rizzi really was a bright spot and somebody that's going to be serviceable for you. Maybe he can be center if you don't bring somebody in. Maybe he can be a depth piece. Gunnar Hansen, obviously the Vandy offensive tackle. We'll see what happens if we get another tackle, if he's left or right. Richie Leonard before he got hurt was our best player on offensive line. Like we didn't have somebody that good on the team this year. So if he can come back and he can, play left guard or right guard, whichever one. Well, I'll tell you what, Adrien's coming in. Adrien Medley's coming in to play left guard. That's the guy who hasn't committed yet, was on campus today. So I imagine Richie would be a right guard.
Nah.
And then you got Jalen Early, who's, again, probably your best young offensive line. So I like it. Andre Otto, Manasa Tite. You could probably speak to this, getting to talk with the players. Everybody that I've heard that's talked to a player, that guy's a dog. Manasa Tite is going to come along and be a player. I've heard mixed reviews on Lucas Simmons. We'll see if he develops with Herb Hand getting in here. But Bryson Estes, another guy that if you've had a good coach in there, you could see him develop. Jaden Todd, of course, from last year. And then the freshman, Mario Nash, Sean Perret, Ty Hilton, and Jonathan Daniels from out here in Pensacola. You can start to see it. I want 2 more. I want 2 or 3 more. We'll see how many they land, but I don't know. I think the roster is a little bit more close than the fans kind of give it credit for. Right?
Well, you still have the spring,
Mm-hmm.
then you're going to have the summer. So, like I say, when the official roster rolls out, then I'll start. I may have a little more to say so, but it's still musical chairs at this point.
Yeah.
We'll see. I'm excited. Last year's over with. There's not much to talk about, and we look forward to 25 and go from there. This time last year, we were hyped up. Actually, we were still practicing, getting ready for the Orange Bowl. And
we were drying our tears.
Yeah. But hey, it come back full circle. We're going to see how Georgia plays without their starting quarterback.
I mean, I am literally dying about that one because ESPN said that the guy who came in played gritty.
Dude,
Better than
they did a whole thing.
like
Jim,
I
he almost lost his life. He almost lost his life on that hit.
He threw an interception, threw for 70 yards,
Right.
barely beat Texas, who, by the way, hasn't beaten a ranked team all year. And yet,
he lost his head.
Yeah. And we're supposed to sit here and they're telling us, oh, y'all are being whiny. No. We're pointing out your hypocrisy. That's what we're doing. Nobody fully believes or doesn't understand the situations are different than 12 team versus 4 team. No. But y'all made the rules. You made the rules that in the playoffs, if a team could be different without their quarterback, and stop it. These are the same people that told us quarterback play last year was so damn good and it was so important and that Carson Beck was the best quarterback ever. And they said that up until every game this year. He was look what he did against Tennessee. Look what he did against Texas earlier in the year. They were sitting there humping and pumping this kid until he came out. And now they're like, oh, look, Georgia is so much better with this other kid in. He threw for 70 yards, an interception, no touchdowns. I don't have the words. And then people are like, look at Florida State. They're still whining. No, we're pointing out the hypocrisy. We understand that 12 teams is different. I'm just saying, you're supposed to remove them, put in Bama, not Miami, by the way. You were the second team out, my friends. You didn't even make the first team out. You're the second team out. And, so it should be Bama in.
Yeah, we were undefeated and conference champion.
Yep.
It's sickening to watch them spin the narrative. And then Josh Pate, who after all that, he was on our side and said if we got out, he'd do our show. He didn't do it. I saw a 3-minute clip of him making the case for how nobody wants to play Georgia. Because when you're a defensive team and you lose your quarterback, you have to find something. You have to find an identity, and you're able to do this, and nobody's going to. I'm pulling my hair out. I'm like, this Georgia defense don't hold a hair on the hind end of the 23 FSU team that you're sitting here watching. 6 guys dominate the league at every level between Bethune. Deloach did before he got hurt. You got Adrien Jones in the slot. You got Renardo Green on the edge. You got Fisk on the inside. You got Burst on the outside. You got every level of the defense and elite players playing together. Destroyed Louisville. Destroyed, And meanwhile, Georgia goes to 8 overtimes with their starter. Loses 3 games. It's like they beat Texas twice. The only ranked team Texas has played all year. 2 losses. And people are picking Texas to win the national freaking championship. Like, what the hell are these people looking at? It's almost like it's just about matchups for money. That's my one rant of the night.
What?
But that drove me up a wall, man. Come on, February 1st. ESPN, please do not extend. That's another thing we got coming up. Hopefully they do not extend and we can get the hell out of this conference. Boy. Go ahead, man. I'm sorry. I got fired.
I was just saying, what? Are you saying that they are picking teams for ulterior motives other than earning?
2 from the
I'm
SEC.
sorry. Wait a minute. We were told ESPN and the College Football Playoff Committee, those drunk, corrupt losers, were nothing but, just the cream of the crop. They would never do that. They said in their bylaws that if a quarterback is hurt, that means that another team should play. That's what they said. They made the rules. We did not. So whether it's a 12 team or a 4 team, they certainly in their bylaws don't have if it's a 12 team or a 4 team. That's just what everybody's trying to placate to make themselves feel better about their corruption. But the fact is, the bylaws don't say that. The bylaws say if a important member is injured, the next team in, which would be Bama, just saying.
And the mere fact that we're talking about teams that lost, trying to get in the playoffs, it's crazy because
Mm-hmm.
I had this conversation, and I believe honestly they wanted Oregon to beat Washington last year,
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
and when Washington won, it really screwed up their plans.
Mhm.
There's no way Florida State we drop out. We go from 3 to 5, and then we never get back in after winning the conference championship. With a third string quarterback.
Inexplicable. It's a crime against humanity that'll never be, fixed until we just go all the way and win that college football playoff. But to see them just completely take the other side of the coin, it's just so politician-y, just so nasty.
It
So
was
everything we don't need in
delicious.
college football.
It was delicious. I didn't think it would happen the next year. I didn't. I really didn't. I didn't think I would get so blessed by Jesus at Christmas that it would happen the exact next year to an SEC team. But guess what? It did. And guess what? Peter Burns, SEC loser Peter Burns, says Georgia won with their backup quarterback. Florida State fans step back. This idiot who sits there on TV doesn't even know that Florida State won their championship with a third string quarterback. Are you joking with me? Third string. It's so ridiculous. And they're sitting there going, well, Georgia is different because they won with their backup. How about imagine what would happen if you won with your third string? That's exactly what I said to him. And he goes, oh, totally different situation. That's what he said. He responded to me. I was like, oh, imagine if they had won with their third string in their championship game, how much praise you would be heaping on them with that type of QB performance. And it's just, there's no words. There's no words for their hypocrisy, their corruption, and their lies. They never had any intention of letting Florida State in. That's the truth. As of on College game day, they were sitting there pumping for them to be left out before Jordan was even hurt. And it's the end of the story. That's the whole reason I keep pushing it, because they lied to the country, they lied to America, and they broke college football in the process. And now everybody knows it. That's just the truth.
College football will never be the same after what happened to FSU.
Nope.
So for the game itself, it's not even fun to watch because you don't know who's on whose roster. And you better not buy a jersey because you just buy the jersey and rip the name off the back. Go old school, and the kids see that. So, I said this on another podcast, and I know we talked about our offensive line and how bad it was, and the team was bad last year. But I don't know if those kids ever realized that, going undefeated and to get left out, did they have anything to play for?
No.
We went undefeated and we didn't have anything to play for. We came back, we got some money, and we get married.
Out the gate.
Yeah, we don't have any incentive. There's no incentive for us to play considering what we went through. And that's hard for young people.
Yeah. I absolutely agree with that. Yeah.
I'm not too critical on what happened. And to be honest with you, I don't know if Coach Novell ever was able to get back, considering, what the sacrifices that those kids made. And they were all in on winning that championship last year, and it was taken away from them. So it was hard on him to try to coach kids up when they did everything right and they went undefeated. They didn't have any scandals. Everybody played together, and then you get to the top, and then they say, "Oh, you guys are not going." So, what are we playing for? How do you tell? What message can you tell those kids? I didn't talk to my son for almost 2 weeks, and I'm his dad. So imagine, what could Coach Novell tell the kids?
I think it did break him. I think it broke him. I think it broke the coaching staff, and rightfully so. And I think it broke a lot of those kids. And I 100% agree with that. And I've said it a million times to SEC people. Look at this. We got to do this. I said, who cares? The game's not matter anymore. Y'all told us that. They don't.
Yes.
They don't.
I wonder if Mike could go back, if he would either try to just fire him up and everybody let's play, or just said, as a team, we're going to sit this thing out. Because to your point, when you just, okay, you didn't go, everybody goes out, you get beat by Georgia. Yeah, maybe it was inevitable that there had to be a staff change to somehow root out that cancer, get that just stink of that, because it's tough. I couldn't imagine. And he said it in an interview. He's like, everything I preached, everything I told these guys for 5 years, you do this, X, Y, and Z, you'll be there. You'll be in the playoff. You'll have a chance to go to the NFL. And when that gets rug pulled from you, like, yeah, it's something that'll never happen again. And it's hope we can forget about it.
What happened? Everybody went jump in the portal all around the country because it sent a wave around college sports that going undefeated means nothing, regardless of what conference you were in. And it's not like Florida State had won national championships before. We had 3 Heisman guys.
Yeah, it's Florida State. If they can do it in Florida State,
I'm saying it's not like Miami. I mean, Miami hadn't been relevant since 2001, 2
since Blockbuster was popping.
Yeah, but that was just my opinion. That's why I wasn't too hard on the guys because they put everything into it last year. And you're talking about kids now. I don't know if you ever been punched in the stomach and trying to get your second win. It's hard when you've given everything you got. So hopefully this year right here, coach can take a deep breath. They changed the staff. They got some new blood in there. Some of those kids have moved on. For me, as long as they get the education, and nobody's talking about education in any of this transfer portal stuff.
I mean, is it even possible? Is it like college football now? I mean, how can Barry Alexander have an education? Like it's like with the timing of the bowl games and the college football playoffs, like it makes me wonder. Like
what is the APR? Are these schools getting punished for kids leaving and not graduating? I mean, how's that being counted? At one point, I know with Coach Tag, some kids he couldn't get rid of because they were concerned about the APR and the graduation rate and things like that. And these kids are not going to the NFL. They're going to other schools in 6 months. So nobody's talking about that part of it.
Yeah. The student athlete
is gone.
If it continues how it is within the year, that's just going to be removed from it, just because with the NIL deals, with the collective bargaining that's coming up, it's just going to be, it's going to be crazy. This thing has went longer than we normally do. This has been such a good conversation. I've had so much going on. I don't know how much more time you got. We appreciate the heck out of you having time with us, but I think the only thing we haven't got into is the JUCO ruling. I could read my notes and get you guys' opinions on that. We can use that to close it out if everybody's down with that.
I'm okay with that. I played JUCO basketball, and now at 56, I get 4 years. So I'm making a comeback. I'm going to the gym in the morning.
Hey, come to Memphis.
Get back on the hoop.
Come to the University of Memphis. Let's do it.
Well, you've got a heck of a fan base that'd be cheering for you. That's for sure.
Ooh. We'd love it. Come on.
Hey, I'm going to have a workout video. I'm making a comeback like Rocky.
There you go. You're going to have to have the kids grab the camera at the factory. So he's really built for it.
Well, let's get you on the phone with Penny Hardaway. Let's get you on the phone with him. Let's do it.
So
that's crazy.
All of this came out of a Tennessee courtroom, just like the NIL stuff about a year back, where FSU self-reports, take scholarship reductions, show cause for Alex Atkins, all this stuff. A week later, they try to do the same thing to Tennessee, and they don't participate. They're like, no, we're going to sue you. I don't know if they ended up winning the suit or they just dropped it, but they decided, okay, we're just not going to enforce NIL rules anymore. It's the wild, wild west. Y'all do whatever y'all want. Okay. Similar thing happened when you had Daryl Jackson, the kid from North Carolina, and another guy trying to get their waiver, all getting, all these things and people getting mad. Daryl Jackson, the guy that didn't get it. How come this guy got it? Well, they throw their hand up in there. We're not doing no waivers anymore. Everybody just unlimited this, unlimited that. So it's a trend with these guys. So now this all started with Diego Pavea, the Vanderbilt quarterback who had played a year in JUCO and he filed for a waiver to get that off so he could play another year. He took it to court. The judge ruled that JUCO does not count against NCAA eligibility. So now, auspiciously, should the NCAA follow the precedents of this judge or the next person that sues, that judge follows that precedence, which is 99% of the time how this works. Ever since they sued about the NCAA game, that's how we got here. Okay. If that happens, all of a sudden, you could go out of high school like our man Rob Deloach did, red shirt, whether you red shirted or not. You could red shirt at a JUCO, play for 2 years, and then be a fourth-year guy, a technical senior, and you could go to your college of your choice and then red shirt, and then have 4 more years. So is that 8 years? 8 years of eligibility, double.
Yes.
I mean, it's pretty nuts. Like, I don't see it going any other way. That's gonna how it's gonna go. What are y'all first thoughts on this? I mean, it's just talk about flip college football upside down.
So part of it is in every sport other than football and basketball, kids can move around semester to semester. Track and field, baseball, whatever, volleyball, field hockey. But because basketball and football generate revenues, then they had this rule, right? So people started challenging. So why is it different from this sport to this sport? We all in college. So they broke, and part of this is you got to think it's the younger generation that's actually in these positions. They said, well, I was that kid that couldn't transfer. I had to sit out a year. Now they're in positions of authority and influence. And now these bringing these things up that maybe they had concerns when they were playing the sport. But the JUCO rule is a game changer. So what I believe is going to happen if it goes full throttle, it's going to knock out these makeshift prep schools that came in after COVID that would really, sucking kids out that really didn't get a chance to get seen during COVID. It's going to knock them out, but it's also going to be a feeder program for some of these other universities that they're going to be able to send kids out of high school and let that be the farm team, like Major League Baseball. It'll be like the G League in basketball, and now you're going to see the farm teams for football, and it's going to be JUCO. And then you don't get punished. I don't know, when I was in JUCO, you had to graduate college in order, to go at the next level. So in all of this, nobody's talking about education. Mm-hmm. So I don't know how this is going to, affect kids long term, but right now it's a wild, wild west, and I don't see it getting any better. It's going to be interesting.
Yeah, Al Woody, I probably misspoke, but it's a 2-year program, but you can also redshirt. So you can burn a possible 3 years down there, and then your redshirt at the next level, bam, plus 4 years, that gets you to 8 years of eligibility. I think you're right. I think if this goes through, I mean, these colleges are only going to take 10, 15 high school guys a year, because just like right now, you're having to decide how much NIL to spend on high school, how many high school guys to bring in. Do you want 30 high school guys on your roster when you can bring in a starter who's got 3-4 years experience? When you add this JUCO in, imagine bringing a third-year guy that's 20 years old at wide receiver. Like, we're getting guys like that now. And Tylen Coleman and Jordan Scott. Like, Jordan Scott could come in if this is retroactive, it takes effect now. He's going to have 4 years, and he's 6'7", 200 pounds, a grown man. So, Tylen Coleman, Jaden Jones will get a couple more years. Malik Benson will get a couple more years. I mean, it'll flip everything on its head. Do you have any comment, Jen?
So if it was a 1 year in JUCO, if a kid is stuck there for, grades or something to make the grade to get to another school, I'm fine with that not being a knock on their eligibility for college. But if we're talking 3 years, we're going to end up with a 36-year-old offensive lineman like Miami does, right? It is getting wild. So I'm fine with the JUCO kid with the 1 year because they need to get their grades together. Like, let's get some nuance into it. Like, you can make it to where it's not unfair to the kid for whichever reason he needs to go to JUCO. But let's not do 3-4 years. Like, this is getting a little out of hand. And I know that Coach JB, who has been with us on the roast before, he has a whole in-depth thing on it. And I would suggest anybody who wants to go listen to it. He was from Last Chance U. And I think it is, he said anyway, I would suggest anybody go listen to that if you want it any more in-depth. I obviously can't go as far as he can, but I would just say, you don't have to break everything to fix one thing. And that's what it seems like they were doing right there. That's all.
Nobody's thinking through the process.
Yeah.
Like
Not
these
at all.
judges are just like, it's like the social, thing is to let the kids, they deserve it. They've been held down. And so it's like every judge it's like, yep, we're voting that way. We're voting that way. We're voting that way. So something's got to happen. My take on it that I keep saying is, I truly believe when all this was, the Ed O'Bannon suit came through, they're trying to say we want student athletes and people are saying you're full of crap. You're keeping the money for yourself and all that. I think all that was true. And I'm not trying to cape for them, but I think what happened is they said, oh, yeah, you really want all this? You want all these waivers? You don't like how we're doing it? Have it. Have it your way. All of it. So they can say, oh, look, I told you so. And, the teams and the presidents come running back and say, please, please, please fix it. Well, I think it backfires. I think you're going to end up with a P2 and they're going to do their own dang thing. And they'll be stuck with the Big 12 remnants and the ACC remnants and the D2 and the D3. And that's what they'll have. But that's a conversation for another day.
So my last comment on this is with the big conferences, the Big 10 and SEC, they drive college sports. So if the SEC, if the NCAA says, hey, you're not going to be able to do this, they say, you know what? We don't need the NCAA. We'll start our own conference because we have the resources. Yep. And that's what Texas did. Texas actually had their own network.
Mm-hmm.
And they said, we don't need to be a part of the conference. We can have our own network. We have the resources. So really the NCAA really doesn't have any say. So it's driven by the Big Ten and the SEC. Whatever they want, they get.
Facts on top of facts. And when the rest of these
2 or 3 years, in 2 or 3 years, I don't think we're talking about ACC, SEC, Big Ten. I think we're talking East-West football around the country. It's going to split the country up East and West. Just that simple.
Yeah, and I don't like it, but I'm here for it. I'm embracing it. I agree. I think we're all in agreement there. Just get FSU out and get them in that group.
They're going to be in the East.
Yep.
It's going to be like the NCAA basketball. They're going to have 64 teams in. And you're going to be
Let's
playing
just leave Wake behind because I'm really tired of Wake.
Yeah, no, I don't think Wake will make it.
I'm joking, I'm just
fastest growing fan base in the country. Isn't that what they said? It's crazy watching ACC tape for everybody for us. They make up all these excuses, but
Notre Dame scored on the opening drive, so 7-0.
Boom. Yeah, the good football has started. We won't keep you. I didn't mention Omega Blake or Randy Pittman Jr. Those are 2 guys to look out for to commit. Also, Blake Nicholson decided to return along with Juice Landry or Juice, not Juice Landry. Say it. Juice Cryer. Yeah, my mind's not working. Both those guys came back, so those are your 2 nicest linebackers in my opinion, especially inside linebacker coming back.
Omar Graham.
Yeah, and Omar Graham came back.
I totally forgot.
We got Biscuit back, and we got Biscuit back. Let's continue. I love that we got Biscuit back. I'm sorry.
And
I just had to.
And hopefully brought some syrup with him this time.
Oh.
What kind
Love
of
his blocking.
We can finish the show off on this, okay? Since Rob brought up syrup, I personally am a Blackburn syrup. The just pure cane sugar, the clear stuff. What kind of sugar goes on in I can't talk. Syrup goes on in the Deloach household. Is it Blackburns? Are we a maple?
I work at a sugar refinery, so we make a molasses syrup. So I get the best of the best. I can make it whatever I want to be. I can make it maple. I can make it honey. So I have the best of the best. So I can make it at the plant and bring it home, and we can test it. So we strictly molasses and with no label on it. It's a Deloach brand.
Oh, you got to bring that to the next tailgate. Bring that to the spring game.
All right, let's do that. All right, I bring it up.
Jen, you got one before we get out of here?
I really don't eat a lot of sugar, so yeah, I don't. I really don't. I love just plain maple or I do just the blackburns. That's what I do.
Yeah, Blackburns is where it's at, and Blackburns and white bread. That's another thing. I wanted to get into the plant thing because I'm a pipe fitter by trade. Did that for about 10 years, and that's what I do, shutdowns off and on. So there's a lot of stuff. We'll have to talk next time about that, about some of the parallels of, working your way up from a greenhorn to a journeyman to a foreman to a management position like you're in now. All that stuff parallels. It's something that I found doing this show. Every job I've had, it's the same thing. How much work are you going to put in? How are you willing to be with people, and you get in what you put out. So loved having you on, Salt of the Earth. We definitely have to do this, guys, soon again.
Thank you so much. Merry
Thanks for having me.
Christmas.
Hey, same to you guys. I'll be seeing you soon, and Merry Christmas, Happy New Year to you guys.
Same to you.
All
Absolutely.
right, good night.
Appreciate you, man.
You too.
Yes, sir. Yes,
I have
ma'am.
no idea what the schedule is for next year because of Christmas. I don't know what Jen's got going on. I'm still planning on doing Tuesday and Friday, which that'd be Christmas Eve, Tuesday, and then Friday will be probably fine. But we don't have anything scheduled. I'm trying to get something scheduled for some people that don't have a bunch of family stuff in there. But I keep forgetting next week's Christmas and going on like this as usual. So definitely, I hope everybody has an amazing weekend. Everybody's getting ready for a great Christmas coming up. Not everybody. I'm bah humbug. I'm single. I got my 2 puppies. They'll probably get some treats and stuff like that. But anything you got going on? Anything you want to share before we get out of here?
No, I just I am unfortunately not seeing that Notre Dame is going to lose because I think they also got a gift in the playoff, and it's just so ridiculous that anybody who can lose to Northern Illinois in a year and then get this type of gift in the first round is absolutely insane. And everyone knows why I hate Northern Illinois because of Jordan Lynch. We're not going to go back into that. That fool said that Florida State should be on their knees, and then he got invited to the Heisman Trophy with our wonderful Jameis Winston. But again, I'm not going to go back into all this because it'll just make me angry. So, yeah, tonight, go Indiana. I don't feel like it's going to happen, but we can all fingers crossed.
Yeah, unfortunately for Indiana, Notre Dame is kind of like, we're going to do what you do, and they just kind of have better athletes. They're not going to be able to, out physical them. We'll see. Maybe they will. I'm hoping they will. I'll be pulling for them as well. But yeah, I'm all dried out. This thing went an hour and a half, way longer than I thought it would. Thanks to everybody that joined. If you're on YouTube, please hit like and subscribe. If you're on Twitter, same thing. Jump over to YouTube if you get a chance. Hit like and subscribe. We're trying to get to 3,000 subscribers, which is a huge milestone for a YouTube channel and a jumping off point. So happy to have everybody back. Happy to have Jen back and happy. And yeah, we love you guys. I'll run the intro again. Unfortunately, I didn't get the defensive end on there in time, but get you a look at Duce and the offensive tackle that we're trying to get on in the class. Go ahead. Go Noles, baby.
Bye, guys.
I think we ain't done yet.
You personally.
I think we ain't doing it.